You get upset about the inside of a sausage.
My life is more miserable because of what you're saying.
And I spent my whole childhood watching The Animals of Farthing Wood. No, but I thought I was a squirrel. I thought I was going to...
Can, as I did earlier, now identify as a two-spirit neutrois penguin.
Why do you think Piers is so offensive?
Well, I think the way that Piers talks about trans people, and specifically non-binary people, is that you mock them, you make fun of them, you use them as entertainment, you use the lives of real people in this country, a vulnerable minority, as something to make fun of and get a reaction. And I don't think that's the quality journalism that you do elsewhere.
Well, be specific.
Well, when you claim that you're a two-spirit penguin...
Yeah, but you know why I did that?
Go on.
Because you and I had this debate about the 100 genders.
Did someone be fired for making a joke that they're a two-spirit penguin? You know.
And I made the point, if literally you can now identify in 100 different ways your gender, including two-spirit person and all this other stuff, then I'm entitled to identify as a two-spirit penguin. In other words, there are no limits. And what's interesting is...
He's shaking his head. What's wrong with it? What if he actually is? What if that becomes his, like, gender identity? How are you supposed to say that's not a thing?
You want me to respect all those 100 genders, however ludicrous some of them are, but you have zero respect for my right to identify myself in any way I see fit. So, in other words, it's one rule for you. You say everyone's entitled to say they can be whatever they want. But the moment I decide that I want to be a two-spirit penguin, you go absolutely nuts and want to control how I self-identify.
That's not how it works.
That is the point I'm making. That is not transphobic. That is exposing a flaw in your position.
It isn't, because being a penguin isn't a gender. That's not on the gender spectrum.
No, but Benjamin, can't you see how he's taking it to the absurd?
He has to, like, justify what is on the spectrum and why. That's the thing.
It doesn't matter how many times you pretend to be Pingu Morgan. That's still not a gender that people can identify with. But what we know is that there will be people watching this programme this morning who might be vulnerable, who might be unsure, that are trans, that are non-binary, and it can do real damage. When I was...
How so? Like, geez, you're going to hear opinions that you don't like occasionally. Why are we so afraid of that now?
Growing up, I watched GMTV religiously, and I was gay and unsure about my sexuality. And I fear that if that had been mocked constantly on breakfast telly,
there are a few people. Okay, but on that point, there are a few people who have been louder and prouder about promoting gay rights on television than I have relentlessly on this programme. To zero credit for people like you, right?
I mean, I don't think not hating gay people is a great achievement.
Nobody has been louder and... Not hating gay people is a great achievement, sure.
Proud in promoting trans rights, right? And India will confirm that because she's seen it and she's responded to it and come on and debated it with me. So when you call me racist, homophobic, sexist... No, but I've seen all the stuff on Twitter in the last 2 days, right? This debate about me. Apparently I'm racist, I'm transphobic, I'm bigoted, I'm homophobic. It's all baloney. It's actually baloney. What I think should be happening is this whole gender debate, to me, has got completely out of control.
Absolutely.
And the reason I feel so incensed, and I'll come to India in a moment, the reason I feel incensed about this 100 gender thing, imagine being India Willoughby, who's gone through transitioning, which is an extraordinarily difficult, emotional, psychological and physical process, lasting a long period of time. And then when you finally get to transition to be a woman, right, having wanted to be that your whole life, then you get told, actually, it's meaningless because there are now 100 ways to identify gender.
Well, let's hear from India.
Yeah. I actually do feel that way. Like, sometimes it feels like a parody and they want it to be intertwined to the point where, like, communities and shit, they're half full of literally just, like, cis people that call themselves something else. And there's no, like, you got to justify why these, like, genders are such an unimpeachable thing if you're going to call them, like, a minority and stuff. It's not like your skin color or something, you know, or even, you know, transitioning because you have a specific issue, right? Always sees back at some point. I think he appears on this quite a lot.
I think Piers is a beacon of light, and most trans people, and I'm actually going to use the word...
She's debating against him, interesting, okay.
...transitioners here, because transgender now has become something completely different. Transgender now is about floating about in the middle, no commitment, you pick and choose who you want to be. And with the greatest respect, I don't need any gay people coming in to represent me because I'm trans. It's not the same as being gay.
Based. Is it not the same as being non-binary though? Come on, you can do it.
And if you're saying that, you know, this is making a mockery of gender, well, what's your views on drag? I find drag far more offensive than anything that Piers says.
Drag isn't a gender.
No.
That was bad timing. I don't know why she finds drag offensive. Like, most of the time when like a trans person finds drag offensive, usually they just don't know anything about it and don't watch it. It can be like super inspiring, and like tons of trans people do it. So I don't know where she's going with this. I don't know where she's going with this, should I say.
No, but drag is gay men dressing up as women in a flamboyant way, exaggerated mannerisms.
Drag is a beautiful art.
No, it's not a beautiful
India,
art
do you not
whatsoever.
accept? It is. That's a ridiculous comment.
She's very anti-drag. I think she's changed a lot since this. Most likely, like, she goes on about gender critical like all the time now. Nicola Sturgeon, really dumb tweets here. Like, who are we talking about now? Yeah, I think she's probably changed most of these like views, I would have thought.
Do you not accept, though, that you identify as you're a trans woman?
No, I no longer. Do you know what?
woman?
I no longer identify as trans because it's become.
You don't identify as trans, you are trans. Like, you identify as the thing and that's what makes you trans, I think. But now you identify as trans, like, come on.
So embarrassing because of people like you and what you champion.
Oh, India.
I'm ashamed of it.
You
It's
must
awful.
accept there are bigoted people in this country.
I don't accept there are 100
They need to start letting each other talk. This is already getting ridiculous.
There are
genders.
bigoted people in this country
There's bigoted people
They're
who
not.
don't recognise your identity.
who don't recognize your identity. Is that bigoted? Like, why is that bigotry?
Why is it okay when you recognise that that is unacceptable and bigoted for you to turn to non-binary people and say you don't recognise their identity? Isn't that a race to the bottom?
Listen.
So, well, let me, I need to think about that for a sec.
Is it in this
Absolutely
country
not.
there are bigoted people in this country.
That don't accept
Why is
people's
why is it okay
identities.
when you recognise that that is unacceptable and bigoted?
So you're saying that that's bigoted, but then you're not accepting gender identity. Well, don't we need kind of a good reason to accept gender identity? Like, what's it based on?
For you to turn to non-binary people and say you don't recognise their identity. Isn't that a...
I think it's probably because, like, these kind of trans people, myself included, have gender dysphoria. Like, what's your identity? What does that mean about you? You're just saying you are something, right? I don't know. I need to brush up on like queer theory or something because I need answers from somewhere. Like, you can't just make something up about yourself and then decide that anyone who disagrees is bigoted. But that's where we're at now. It's like ideology has become identity. So like, to attack the ideology, you also attack the identity. It makes it completely fucking impossible to talk about.
Race to the bottom.
How can non-binary be transgender? What exactly are you transitioning?
Well, it's under the umbrella
You don't
term.
even believe in gender.
Yeah, it's the umbrella term, but like, again, it's just something someone made up. Like, why is trans an umbrella term as well? You've got LGBTQ, whatever. LGB are pretty like defined, you know, lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and then trans, which equals non-binaries, trans, all sorts of other stuff. Like umbrellas within umbrellas. So what's me then, and what's the difference?
Gender. So how can you be transgender? It's made a mockery of the whole...
I totally agree.
The whole
I totally agree.
You don't
And by
need
the
to
way,
be a world gender expert. You just need to be
I've
compassionate.
heard lots of people, yeah, but you're not compassionate, are you? You see, this
I
is my
am. I'm
problem. No.
incredibly
It's this
compassionate.
hard
It's
line.
incredibly compassionate.
And they are so
I have rarely
intolerant.
been subjected to more foul abuse on social media than I have in the
Absolutely.
last few days since this campaign started against me. There is an aspect of, I'm afraid...
That's actually an interesting point, because these people will always complain about like bigots coming after them and stuff. These people come after other people too. It's like exactly the same. It happens on all sides. And if we can't accept that, then we're never going to get anywhere.
Your lobby group, for want of a better word, the gender lobby group, which is highly abusive. It wants everybody that they don't agree with to be fired, cancelled, destroyed, and everything else. And I say...
He's shaking his head, but he wants Piers Morgan to be fired for his views and for saying things like he's a what, a two-spirit penguin. You know what I mean? Like, is that not what you're saying? I mean, let's see what he says.
What is wrong with debate? You and I came on and we debated it on here, right?
Yeah.
I actually learned a bit from you, and perhaps you learned a bit from me, and maybe you didn't. But your response to a good-natured debate on that is to now come back on and demand I get fired because you only want people sitting here that you agree with. And I say that most people, and I say...
He really wants to chime in. Like, there's something about the way you watch him, like, listening. He's constantly, like, reacting emotionally. Like, that's what I'm trying to get away from, personally.
This with respect to you. Most people think the concept of 100 genders is utter nonsense. And if it takes me to say on television, get away from this ridiculous control freakery stuff that no one's allowed to challenge it, if it's to me that says that, I'm going to say...
It's, like, true. It's in, like, trans communities. You can't, like, challenge it. Like, it's just... you just don't, if you want to be part of them, is what seems to be my experience. I don't know.
And you're not going to stop me, and you're not going to get me fired.
And what exactly is your expertise on gender? Have you got any gender issues?
Yes, thank you. Like, where is any of this coming from? It's just, this is how it is. Okay, but why? Where's that from? Well, this is how it is.
I'm a cisgendered male, and I feel happy to be comfortable in that.
Benjamin, you'll have to explain what cisgender is, because
means
it's
I
not
was
a wide,
born as a
horrible
man,
language.
and I was born as a man, and I identify
You're a
as
male.
a man.
You're a man.
But the
Just a
truth
man, you don't need cis.
Piers, when you think you're under attack, imagine being someone who has been criticised by their friends, by their family, by their school, by parts of the media from the day...
So we get criticised.
You know what? I would much rather live in peace than
Oh, everyone needs to stop talking. Like, fucking hell, let him finish.
Criticised by their friends, by their family, by their...
Yeah, these people are getting criticised. I've had loads of criticism, mostly not about being trans, but let's carry on.
Their school, by parts of the media, from the day they were born, just for being who they are.
Why don't they let him finish? I need to try and single out his voice so I can hear what he's actually trying to say, because he does need to make a point, but these people also need to let him make a point. Getting attacked.
It's more interesting. It's got... live in peace. It's more interesting. It's got humour.
There's a school where I grew up, near where I grew up, in Brighton, right? About 5 miles from where I grew up. There are now 85 kids identifying as gender fluid, non-binary. It is nonsense.
It's confusing people.
It's confusing everybody. You've got kids watching this programme now, hearing you say there are 100 ways to identify your gender. Not male and female. There are 100 ways to... You could be a two-spirit person.
There are 100 ways to be compassionate. And do you know what...
There's 100 ways to be compassionate, but compassionate doesn't mean truth. And, like, to be fair, he's not... It's kind of a 3-on-1 or a 2-on-1 more like, but they're not quite letting him get anything out. So it's becoming difficult to criticize, because I don't know how much he can even get anything out. Like, he was going somewhere with something, and fuck.
It's compassionate. Do you know what utterly confusing.
Do you know what would be better?
Dangerous.
Do you know what would be better than you being fired? Because actually, I'm not intensely keen on this cancelled culture.
Then why is he on this then? Like, come on, you're not keen on it. You don't think that's the best thing, but you're... Jesus Christ.
You signed the petition to have me fired.
I did, because you don't seem...
So you do want to get him fired then, be honest.
To want to learn, but what would be better is if you wanted to learn.
I don't want to learn how you...
What would be better is if you were better. It's if you agreed with me. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah,
I don't want to think how you think is what you mean. You want to fire me because you want me to think how you think.
Most people on Twitter
and my
do
problem
as well.
about liberals today is...
Most people on Twitter, who gives a fuck about people on Twitter? Twitter isn't the fucking world, and Twitter isn't necessarily representative of, like, trans people. And thank fuck for that, because... Jesus, like, go on there. It's insane.
Become so illiberal. They're only interested in making other people agree with them and think like them. And if they don't, they no-platform them, they ban them, they cancel them, they sign petitions to get people fired, and it is utter nonsense.
Okay. Do you ever think you go too far?
Benjamin.
Do you ever regret some of the...
So, do we ever go too far?
Sometimes, yeah.
But you must recognise that.
Sometimes, but not on gender.
Better.
Not on gender. And the reason I identified as...
Is he like, what? So you do have the ability to see when you've gone too far. I want to make you see that you've gone too far on this by calling yourself a two-spirit penguin. Is that it?
Two-spirit penguin was actually not, as you think, to make a cheap mockery of people that transition. I completely support all transgender people who...
Yeah, he's not equating someone like me with someone like that, basically, which I think it's fair enough.
Transition. I don't support this 100 gender nonsense because I think it trivialises and demeans and makes a mockery of what people like India have had
And
to go
most
through.
people who have transitioned are on Piers' side. This
So when I get
this
called
doesn't sink
transphobic,
through.
I'm not
This doesn't
transphobic.
sink
And I
through.
resent you using that phrase. I'm somebody that challenging...
Yeah, how can you be transphobic for making fun of there being 100 genders? That's not transphobic.
this ridiculous notion that there are now 100 genders. That is dangerous and delusional.
Benjamin, can I just... I think the 100 gender thing has thrown everybody. Surely, some people... I totally understand and sympathise with people who have an issue with gender stereotyping. But 100? 100 ways to define yourself?
Yeah, so it's like they're all supposedly individually defined, right? So you can define some of them and tell us where they come from, maybe. Like, it can't just be identity. I can't accept that you just identify as something and therefore you are that thing. Like, that doesn't make sense. Because that makes the attack helicopter argument for it, you know?
This is an umbrella term of non-binary people who don't consider themselves male or female.
But consider themselves. That's the problem. You can't tell people how to consider you. Like, in any way, surely. I mean, I could say I'm a musician, but I've never played anything in my life. I'm not a fucking musician.
And these are the terms we have for them to identify.
Okay, but 100?
Well, I mean, those are the different terms that people have accepted to describe different ones.
How many can you name?
Well, we're not going to go into that because you don't need to be a world gender expert.
I mean, he should have enough knowledge to say, for example, I know about these ones, but I mean, it would kind of derail the whole thing. So maybe this is the best way of doing it, actually.
You just need to be compassionate, Piers.
No.
So it's just about being compassionate for people wanting to call themselves something. But why do you have to accept what they're saying? Like, what's the basis? Why is it so immutable and so essential? Right?
No.
Please.
Your idea of compassionate and mine are two different things.
Yeah.
I've seen the compassion shown to me in the last week. It's zero. It's just abuse, right? And what you actually want, you want people to be able to identify as anything they want, right to the point that someone like me goes, OK, in that case, I want to be a two-spirit penguin. Then you go nuts.
Because that's not a gender.
Right,
and that's not...
So that's not a gender. So now what? He should get fired? Like, I mean... It kind of feels like he's right, and this is, like, extremely illiberal.
Decided it is, and I want to respect...
It's not difficult to work out, because it's not a gender, so you must be taking the piss? What? So he's making a joke? So what, we can't make fun of someone because they're calling themselves something? Like, I don't understand it. I think people should be able to take the piss out of trans people and fucking any people, honestly. It used to be fun to take the piss out of white people, but then people started seeming like they actually believed what they were saying.
The fact that I'm allowed to be that. But because you want everyone to be whatever they want to be.
And you call people like me snowflakes and say that we're weak-willed.
Yes.
There's nothing harder than having the guts to be yourself.
What are you talking about? Be yourself. You're
Here's
not
what you should be.
trans. You're not transgender.
Here's what you should be. You should
I'm
be.
here.
We're all ourselves.
You have a real
You get upset about the
transgender
inside of
person.
He's talking over her now, like... What'd he say?
Here's what you should be. You should be.
I'm here.
We're all ourselves.
We're all ourselves. Okay, well, fine, whatever.
You get upset about the inside of a
here.
sausage roll.
I'm upset about, yes, I was about to say,
Piers is
I can
right,
get enraged.
and that my life is more miserable because of what you're saying.
And
I'm
Benjamin,
an
here's the
actual
point.
trans person.
I mean, I don't think this guy is really helping anyone, honestly. I don't know that he's not making my life miserable. And obviously it's gotten far worse in like 4 years. It's gone even more insane. But, you know... I don't know who this is helping. Like, I guess we're going to see the effects of it when these kids that are, like, identifying as this, that, and the other start growing older.
I can get enraged about all sorts of things. I wake up in the morning simmering, right? I read about vegan sausage rolls. I want to go nuts. I read
Piers
about...
will have an argument at the
At
next...
least he's honest about it. Like, the vegan sausage roll thing was, like, fucking retarded, but at least he's honest about it, I guess.
balls now being made of vegan
I don't
sugar.
believe that.
It's on. However, what I don't do is I don't tell people that don't agree with me, you have to be fired or cancelled or deplatformed.
Yeah, like, he's just wrong. The whole premise of this is completely insane. And I don't know if he's just the kind of guy that shit talks on Twitter, and, like, he obviously seems like he's, you know... He's a different person online to at least a little bit of an extent.
I debate with them. I don't like a lot of stuff, but but I'm happy to have a debate. When you and I debated
how do you
100
think-
genders, I went away and thought, interesting debate. Now you're here to debate me getting fired because you don't like the fact I don't agree with you.
But
That
do you
is
not accept it
democracy.
can damage
That's not-
people?
No, you're
Damage people how? He made a joke. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I get like not wanting to make fun of someone for their skin color or like their sexuality or something, but when it's something you prescribe to yourself and then tell the world that's what you are now, like you think if someone made fun of me for being poor because I'm a musician that would be offensive because I chose that life for myself?
damaging people.
You're damaged. I'm telling you, you have
damaging
damaged.
India.
Your ideology has actually damaged my career
But a
over the
huge
last 3 years
number of
because
trans
you've
people disagree
turned
with
the
you in
whole
India.
thing into a damaged my career
But a
over the
huge
last 3 years
number of
because
trans
you've
people disagree
turned
with
the
you.
A huge number of trans people disagree with you. Well, I guess, yeah, but what does that mean?
whole thing into a joke. I've lost work because of what it's become. People don't want to get involved with transgender people.
That's because
it's
no,
all
you
about-
No. See, well, it's always believe other people's experiences. It's always believe trans people's experiences until a trans person says something that you don't agree with, and then it's no. I'm glad my voice is like so low that I can do impressions of this guy easily, because he's beginning to irritate me a bit. I should watch more. I should get more involved in this guy. I can follow up on some of these. I've laid out a few things, but we can keep going.
You're not listening.
You don't want to hear
listening.
this.
Well, I
This
don't
is
accept,
real life
I don't
experience.
accept that you give in to people who have bigoted views.
No,
Give in to people who have bigoted views. No, she's thinking for herself. Because one of your opinions matches someone who you consider bigoted, that doesn't mean they're giving into that. That means that they have their own opinion that probably falls somewhere between you and that so-called bigoted person. Like, this is the whole... It's like when people treat Candace Owens like a kind of turkey voting for Christmas or something. Like, it's not that I don't see the point, but it's like patronizing as fuck. You know, insinuating that because, like, she's black, she can't think for herself. She couldn't possibly have arrived at, like, conservative views on her own or something. Like, there has to be something wrong there or something. It's the same here. Like, you know, copping to, like, bigoted views. Like, come on. Like, don't patronize someone, especially when they're the ones trying to tell you what their experience is. Like, her experience matters as much as the next person's, but he's not acting like he thinks so.
No.
What is
It's a
bigoted
joke.
about questioning
All the people out
merit
there
of 100
today-
genders? What's bigoted about that?
Say that again, sorry.
Everyone who thinks 100 genders
Yeah.
is nonsense is bigoted.
Well, the problem is...
Is that your position?
I think a great many of them have broader bigotries
No,
which lead...
That doesn't matter. Why is that bigoted? You can't just broaden the conversation whenever you get caught on something. Like, this is like snake behavior.
position.
If you think
Rubbish.
that
Why
is
are you so
nonsense-
offended or stressed out by people that you
Mate,
may
you're
well
the
never
one,
meet?
because you're the
Because he's saying he wants you to be fired over it, bro.
one signing a petition to have me fired. You want to
What is
cancel
so
my
difficult
livelihood.
about letting people
and you
live
have the
their
gall to sit
lives?
here and talk about... What?
Letting people live their lives. Like, yeah, you can leave these people alone if they really irritate you so much. Not so much if you're trans, because they're so, like, ingrained into, like, our culture or whatever. But what's that got to do with whether these things are real and whether people should be allowed to make fun of them or not? Of course they should be allowed to make fun of them. Like, I hate to think what kind of shit this guy thinks is funny. That's all I'm saying. Like, like, woke comedy, I don't know, there's the odd funny thing, but it's generally, it's kind of when things play on, like, the borderline and, like, shock you a bit is a lot more funny.
Why are you so offended? Let me
Okay.
tell you why I'm so offended.
Piers, I don't talk like that.
No, but
Well,
he'll do that
all
with
right,
everybody.
I do, right?
He's,
I'm
like,
gonna-
grinning and stuff. He's not serious. I don't know this guy's serious. He seems like posh, like, you know, upper class. He probably doesn't have that much of a horse in this race, really. It's just something to pick up on that he can get an audience from. Like, I'm reaching a lot, and I'll find out more, and maybe I'll change my mind. But that's when I see people grinning their faces off, like, saying this kind of shit. It makes me wonder how serious they really are.
Well, my point is this. If you're going to sit here and talk about offence, what about the offence you cause? Seriously.
but
How about the offence you caused to
It's
India?
not offensive to say people can live and be the people that they were born to be. And when you
That's not what he's. Oh my god, this guy is such a. Jesus. Butterworth, because he fucking slips like butter. That's fucking why.
mock people like Sam Smith, that causes
Yeah, well, hold
damage
on a sec.
to non
How so? How so?
Hold on.
Here's my
people that
no.
Damage to non-binary people because you made fun of Sam Smith. He wears this bizarro outfit and then his head is just like a random man's head. It looks strange. Why not make fun of it?
Here's what I said about Sam Smith. 2 years ago, he comes out as a gay man. We all cover that, right? It's a big moment. He talks about it. We all cover it. And within 2 years, he's abandoned that position and now says now he's not sure if he's male or female, right? So he's a singer. He's won Best Male category awards for many years, right? What is he now going to enter? We now hear the British... Wait a minute.
Yeah, there was this meme, this post on like Facebook. I think it was more recently than this conversation. It was like a bunch of pictures of music artists saying that this year there were no male entrants for the category of Best Artist or something like that. And one of the pictures was like Sam Smith. Like, what do you think people are going to say? Like, no male entrants in this category. And there's just a picture of a guy. Like, come on. Like, on a certain level, he was born a boy. You gotta cop to that. Like, Jesus Christ. He just kind of slips away. Whenever Piers like approaches like nailing him down, it's just broaden it, whatever. Like, just admit that your position in this particular debate is ridiculous and that people shouldn't be fucking fired for that shit.
I hear the Brit Awards has to go awards neutral, almost certainly as a result of Sam Smith. So because of one guy who now says, I can't decide if I'm male or female, we no longer have best male or female categories. You know who will suffer in that? Women. Women will suffer. They will win less awards. So actually, these are interesting issues.
Do you know?
And I should be able to challenge you and to debate it.
We're definitely challenging.
Women's sport is a massive issue.
What about my identity? It took me half a lifetime to become who I am today.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a neutral world, with the greatest respect.
You don't have to. You can be yourself vividly.
But I do, because you're going around, you're zapping toilets are becoming gender neutral. Everything's becoming gender neutral.
Everyone talks over her. Like, this is the real thing. Like, all the fucking woke lefties are also talking over the trans person, just like the rest of the people here. It's insane.
I agree, for example, that there is a serious issue about transgender people born to male bodies who transition to women, taking part in female sport and breaking all the records and basically making women born to women bodies, female bodies, actually they can't compete.
No,
is that fair?
Trans women are women.
Oh, they're not.
They are.
Not today's definition.
So you have no problem. You have no problem with, for
sorry.
example, a 6'5"
What has he actually said so far, this guy? Like, it's about compassion. Is it compassion or is it like coddling? Like, what's going to happen to these people that are brought up like, oh, that must be what you are then when you're a kid? I guess we're gonna see on that.
Right, person born to a male body who's a sprinter, as is happening in America right now, in Connecticut, the women's records have been annihilated by two very tall, very strong people who transitioned from male to female in their teens, now breaking all female records.
won't play into the demonisation of trans people. Do you know,
Trans people don't transition anymore. That's the problem.
Benjamin, here's my question.
Transition.
Is it fair to women?
Is it fair to women? Do you know, I absolutely accept that if we have gender-neutral awards, that there is a real danger living in a misogynistic culture, that will mean fewer women are recognised. I totally agree with that.
So women now get punished.
You know, I absolutely accept that if we have gender-neutral awards, that there is a real danger living in a misogynistic culture.
Living in a misogynistic culture. He's got all the buzzwords down, man. Like, every time he says something, you have to like, well, how do you define that? Like, what's this misogynistic culture? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what they mean by that half the time.
That will mean fewer women are recognised. I totally agree with that.
So women now get punished at a war ceremony.
Okay.
What about sport?
What about sport?
Do you think there's any unfairness to female...
I mean, it depends on the different sport, frankly.
Okay.
I hardly think a trans woman golfer is going to struggle from this.
Okay. I feel like we've now gone into a different area of the debate.
It's always believe other people's experiences. It's always believe trans people's experiences until a trans person says something that you don't agree with, and then it's no.
I feel like we've now gone into a different area of the debate.
Okay, well, that was fun. Again, I don't know what I learned from that. We've got one more Piers Morgan one. Oh, it's Benjamin Butterworth again. Great. No, I need to know more about this guy for definite. This is like, Jesus Christ. Anyway. Here it is. I wonder if this was the one before the one I just watched. Because he said that they spoke before, maybe. Let's see.
You are transgender actress.
I transitioned from male to female, but I'd never referred to myself as transgender, and if I did, I think my friends would go ballistic. My opinion is there are two genders, male and female. Sometimes you're not lucky enough to be born into the right one, so you transition into the one that you suit the most.
Which seems to me eminently sensible, and I have complete respect for people that
He's smirk already. Not this person. I'm not calling her a he.
do that. It's not an easy process, physically, psychologically, emotionally, or any of those things. I salute you for your common sense. Now, let's bring you into this equation.
Benjamin
You think it is
How
right.
do you identify?
I'm a man. That's right. So,
And gender, what are you?
I'm a cisgendered man.
What
does
does
that
this
mean?
mean?
So that means if you were, you were born a woman, and therefore you still identify as a woman, so you're a cisgendered woman, I would say.
And that's because of my physical
That's because
femaleness.
you identify with how you were born
what am I?
originally.
Remember when it was like men and women? Well, now you can describe that again, but more complicated.
Well, I assume you're a cisgendered
I'm not a
man,
cis
Piers,
anything,
if
mate.
if I may assume.
I'm not a cis anything.
Well-
I'm just a man.
Well, no, but you're a cisgendered man.
No, I'm not
because-
a cisgendered anything.
But hang on.
What does cis mean?
Well, that means that you were born the way that you identify
No,
now.
I'm just born a man.
But someone who
That is kind of a point. Like, can you really force people to use terms like cis and accept those terms? Like, if I don't have to accept someone's term calling me a man, doesn't that kind of go the other way as well?
transitions
Why are
to
you
be a
insisting
man.
on calling me something I'm not?
Well, you can refer to yourself as just a man if you like,
I
but
think most
my
people
mouse is
identify as
disappeared.
male or female, man or woman.
that's
Clip me a
right.
bit,
The
I'm
vast
so
majority
sorry
of
to
people.
all my
But
new
that
viewers.
doesn't
Here we go.
mean that there aren't other people who identify differently.
There are
lots
100
of
different
other
genders
identities.
on this BBC list, apparently, right? One of them is two-spirit person, polygender, pangender, neutrois, intergender.
I have to
gender
say-
non-conforming.
Do you know what they mean?
I have
Nicole?
no idea what they mean, and I'm part.
Right. Well,
I'm
luckily we have the
supposedly
world
part of
expert here.
community.
What is any of this?
Look, I can't. Don't ask me to list off.
What's
all
it?
You'd think you'd know at least a couple of them and say, well, for example, this means this. I don't know.
Two-spirit person.
I think that's someone who identifies with their native background into their gender.
Do you not think
right?
this is just like a vibe that somebody's having? Like when you tick a list, male or female, doing your passport or something, is this not just, this is just how they are? This is just a bit of a vibe.
Do you know what apologender is?
No.
They're very
You
sorry
actually-
about
even
it.
though you support what the BBC is doing. This, by the way, this is the public
Is that what it
broadcaster.
is?
No, I
Hang
don't
on,
know, just-
hang on. The public broadcaster paid for by us with the licence fee is now instructing children. There are 100 genders they can identify as. You have come to defend it, and you don't know what half of these are.
But hang on, Piers. Ignorance isn't a defence.
You're the ignorant one, and you're the one defending it.
I missed
Piers,
them, but I was looking at
hang
his
on.
Twitter.
Genders
There's not
they
much
can
interesting on
identify
there. He shared the one where he got fired. He seems pretty proud of being the most viewed person for saying you should get fired. Like, cool, good on you, well done. You got your fucking tough ass on TV to say much of nothing. Like, great.
You have come to defend it, and you don't know what half of these are.
But hang on, Piers. Ignorance isn't a defence.
You're the
Yeah, but who's explaining it? Who's saying what any of this shit actually is? He's not.
ignorant one, and you're the one defending it.
Well, Piers, you're the one that doesn't know what it is as well, of course.
I'm about to tell you.
That's not... How can you say ignorance is not a defense when you don't know any of this shit either? Come on. Like, are people asking for, like, educating? Then why not educate them? But then most of the time, like, fucking hell, I was in at least one, like, community that got so woke that people were like, you know, this is labor. Like, if you're gonna ask me to explain something to you, you have to, they'd, like, put their Venmos and stuff. It got to that stage. Like, just tell people. Know what you're talking about before you come on here, instead of just fucking engaging in debate tactics and just slipping around everything. That seems to be what he does, from what I can see so far.
Do you know what?
Apologender. is a fairly new word stemming from the Greek apor, meaning separate. Aporogender is an umbrella term meaning a gender separate from male, female, and anything in between, while still having a very strong and specific gendered feeling. That latter part is key, then distinguishing it from agender.
Is this how
which
they're
somebody
explaining it to
who
children?
By the way, can you explain that to me? What does that mean?
Well, that means that someone identifies.
I think that's that Susanna Reid. She's like the normie of the show. It's kind of good to have someone like that here because it's a bit of a freak show, you know.
differently to you, and that's what is at the
No.
heart of this.
Can you explain
But
what
that's just a
aporogender
personality,
is,
isn't
which is
it?
one of the 100 genders that kids now have to be? What is it?
Well, hang on, you know, it's not it's not university challenged.
I've just told you what it is.
Yeah, every time he asks them a question, well, I don't know specifically, then, oh my God. Then how is anyone supposed to understand neutrois, agender, all this other stuff? Yeah, I fucking don't know.
This is for children, Benjamin.
Right.
This is what my problem with it.
When I was a
think it is
child.
university level.
Yeah.
For us to get our heads around 100 different gender identities. And I think Nicole makes a really good point. It actually is about personality,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's just their thing. If I was sat in... I mean, I spent my whole childhood watching The Animals of Farthing Wood. You know, you're impressionable. You know, you've got to be careful.
But you didn't
think I was a
identify-
No, but I thought I was a squirrel. I thought I was going to...
Yeah, I mean, teaching this to kids, I mean, this is why I worry about the way people act on Twitter and stuff. TikTok in particular, like, because kids are impressionable. Like, what are you teaching them? What are they going to go on to do that maybe they did because of the stuff that they watched rather than because of who they are, you know?
grow up and be surrounded in a tree surrounded by nuts. You know,
Benjamin, what is neutrois?
But, oh, come on, are we going to go through all 100?
Do you know any of them?
I need
Well, I
to
know some
know
of them,
what
yeah, but look,
99
here's my
You've
point.
come, no offence, you've
No,
come
no,
on
no.
national television to defend the BBC telling kids there are 100 genders. I'm now reading out a number of these 100 genders. A, you've never heard of them. B, you've no idea what they are. But C, you want to encourage the
Hang on.
BBC to instruct our kids that they should be one of these genders.
But that
I don't even like Piers Morgan. I don't know why this guy is insisting on making me defend him.
isn't the point. The fact is...
That is the
Isn't the
point.
point.
The
So
fact
the point is not knowing what any of them are. Like, it shouldn't matter if you can define any of them, okay?
is that people identify in different ways.
But people identify in different ways.
And when you get bogged down by the idea that children might know that they're different, that they might be helped to understand why they're different, that they're...
Is it helping them to understand? Sometimes it probably is. But how much of it is just confusing them and throwing information at them that perhaps isn't that relevant and might push them in a direction they shouldn't have been pushed in?
teachers teaching them might be prepared with the apparatus to explain it to them. That is a good thing.
100
I think
But you
that's
might-
the
if I may just
parent,
quickly
surely.
finish.
Do you know what neutrois is?
You might find it strange and unusual, and we might not be able to answer what every one of the 100 is. But that doesn't
You
mean
don't
that
seem to
they
know any
don't
of them.
exist. Well, you've...
It doesn't mean that they don't exist, but if something exists, shouldn't you be able to prove it? Shouldn't you have to prove it? Like, that's the whole thing with, like, atheism. You say, you know, the burden of proof is on the people saying that God exists. And that's a lot of people's criteria. Like, isn't this the same?
I suspect you picked the
No,
two most...
I'm literally...
I hadn't heard of
there's an
half of
A
these
to B
before
list,
today.
and I'm just picking them at random.
You have things like...
So far, I've picked 3, then you have no idea what they are. Do you know what neutrois is?
Tell me.
Well, have a
Enlighten
stab.
me.
Have a stab.
Well, OK, I don't know.
Imagine you're a
neutrois
9-year-old
is.
kid and the BBC's told you to be one of these. So what's neutrois?
Well, no, that's not what would happen. What would happen is the kid would say how they're feeling.
Here's what
and the
neutrois
teacher,
is.
The
So
teacher might be
you want to
prepared
tell
to
a
help explain
Have
it
you got
to
any
them.
kids?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I'm
I've
only
got 4
27.
kids, right, including 3 boys, right? So I'm just trying to imagine a conversation with my 3 when they were 9, and my daughter's nearly 9 as well. She's like 7.5, right? Neutrois, someone with a null or neutral gender being neither male nor female, and in some cases a person who may also seek to reduce signs of their physical sex, right? Neutrois.
Which is absolutely fine if that's their vibe.
Right.
We should be teaching children not to be horrible. Like, kids can be awful. We should be teaching children to just let people get on with it, let people
Express
have
their
their own vibe. I
personalities.
keep saying vibe. I'm not a...
What is
vibe
wrong with
girl.
just being male, female, or trans?
I cut her off. She was saying something quite good there. Like, that's what I mean. It's not about just hating on this shit. It's about, like, a middle ground. Like, for me personally, I can envision non-binary fitting into this whole thing. But when you start defining all the stuff and then saying, well, it's not about any of the definitions, it's about just letting people be who they are, you gotta start showing that some of this stuff actually exists at some point, especially when you're then gonna go on to say that someone should be fired. I'm guessing this is the conversation, should I say, that led up to the last one.
And just have your
That's
personality.
it. In other words, three things. You're male or female, or you identify as something else, right?
But there are
what we
lots of
don't do
something
is have these
elses. That's the
100 ridiculous terms that even you, the world expert on gender, has no idea what any of them.
Like Piers's like attitude is doing him a disservice because he's giving this Benjamin guy things. He's giving him a lot of ammo, in my opinion. I think you have to be careful how you talk to these kind of people, even. Oh, yeah, his face. It's something about his face. I don't know what it is. He's doesn't have a horse in this race. Obviously doesn't suffer for much. Like, really, is this where you're pinning your flag to?
And I consider myself to be an expert through experience on transition.
And you've never heard
Yes, the same. But then when you have an experience that doesn't match this fucking thought cult, whatever it is, your experience suddenly doesn't matter anymore.
I don't have a clue.
I mean, I feel a bit like Diane Abbott being tested on all these details here. I'm not saying that I can know
you sound a bit like Diane Abbott because she never knows what she's talking about either.
Yeah, don't bring up Diane Abbott, mate. That's not a good look. If you're feeling like Diane Abbott, something's gone wrong there. Just, yeah.
So this is my point. You're not on charge of your brief, Benjamin.
Wait, isn't that like cultural appropriation? Feels like a black person. Should you be allowed to say that as a white person? Let me go back slightly.
A bit like Diane Abbott being tested on all these details here. I'm not saying that I can know
you sound a bit like Diane Abbott because she never knows what she's talking about either. So this is my point. You're not on charge of your brief, Benjamin.
I don't know how we switched to having a go at Diane Abbott in this conversation.
Well, actually, I think the truth is that kids identify in different ways. And the real thing that we should be focused on here...
What's the job of a parent and a school teacher with a child, do you
It's
think?
to make them feel comfortable in who they are.
Or
And
to
do you know
offer
what?
them... Or Benjamin, let me throw you something at you. Having been a parent of 4 kids, and I'm not using that as a stick against you, right? I just happen to have had 4 kids. And I believe the job of a parent is actually to navigate them through life, which is difficult, but actually to keep things relatively simple.
And to let the child know that they can come and talk to their parents if they feel a bit different.
And
to
I
the
know
other
if you
kids,
start telling
without
kids
it
there's
being a
100
whole
different
big
ways they can identify,
palaver.
most kids will reach a stage where just to be mischievous and to play up a bit, they'll all say, Dad, I'm neutrois today, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you do that.
That's exactly what kids do, mate. I'm telling you.
Not in any
What kids do
serious
is
long-term
they actually,
way.
if they've
Well,
got
they
a
have to come out at some point. How does he know any of that? I need to go back a bit. I was fucking around on Twitter.
Come and talk to their parents if they feel a bit different.
And
to
I
the
know
other
if you
kids,
start telling
without
kids
it
there's
being a
100
whole
different
big
ways they can identify,
palaver.
most kids will reach a stage where just to be mischievous and to play up a bit, they'll all say, Dad, I'm neutrois today, right?
Yeah.
No,
Oh my god, I annoy my partner with shit like that all the time. It's funny. It's funny to claim some abstract gender that you're clearly not. Sorry, it's funny sometimes. I can see exactly why he's calling for like him to get like fired because I don't think he has a sense of humor.
I don't think you do that.
That's exactly what kids do, mate. I'm telling you.
Not in any
What kids do
serious
is
long-term
they actually,
way.
if they've got a little label they can attach themselves to and be encouraged to do it by the BBC,
Raise your child
they
in a
will do
house
it.
where they know they can talk to you if they, if they feel
Oh shit, the one with actual sensible opinions is talking.
differently, and there are.
I would find it a bit uncomfortable if I was sat next to someone who's like debating and they're kind of, is it just me? I'd be like, geez, just back up a bit. Fucking hell.
Things that we can do to help them adapt in life.
Let's
The
not
whole
confuse
world
them,
shouldn't
Benjamin.
adapt for
100
somebody's
don't-
The whole world shouldn't adapt to their, she gets lost every time because people just fucking talk over her. Every single trans person on here, they just get talked over by whoever the fucking woke tard next to them is, by fucking Piers Morgan, everyone else. She's making a lot of sense, in my opinion.
You
Reality.
don't
Hang on.
agree that there are 100.
Let me get...
It's fashion, in my opinion. It comes across like fashion, but you want to force it on everyone else.
Gender identity.
Well, I agree that people have identified as all these things. And the truth is, I don't accept that you can convince a kid that they are something other than they are. We talk about kids being confused by this. The truth
Is that true? Like, God, I'm thinking about that for a sec. You can't convince a kid then something they're not. I think you probably can. I think if they get the right kind of information pushed on them, because like a lot of people's political opinions come from like their parents. like, they don't just form them automatically. Do they form these gender identities automatically? How often do they see these kind of things and think maybe that's me, whether it is or not? I think he's talking from a place that he doesn't know. I mean, he's already said he doesn't have kids. And this is often the case with these kind of people. I come across very few who do have kids and like can actually relate their experiences, because experiences don't matter that much. It's all about the fucking theory, I guess. And it's all about, I'll just let people do what they want. Like, that's fine, but that's not what's coming from the other side, especially when this is the same person that's going to be like, you should be fired for making a joke.
The truth is that if you're not a cis man or woman, then you've been confused for hundreds of years because
I'm not a
you're
cis
not
man.
reflected in
You
the
keep calling me a
education
cis
system.
man. I'm a man.
Well, fine, and that's how you can identify.
Stop calling me.
But
I feel
He doesn't identify as a man, though. Like, he probably doesn't identify as anything, he just is. But we're kind of saying, well, everyone has a gender identity. Do they? Do they?
insulted and offended that you're calling me a cis man when I'm actually a man.
Well,
you see how this works?
But look,
when you get into the offence business, right?
If you
when you get
agree
into the
with the
offence
streamer,
business
do you have
where
to call into the
everyone
show?
is offended by all this terminology, right?
You can just
actually,
do what
I'm
you want.
offended by you
Oh,
calling
fair
me a
enough.
cis man.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I've been thinking about this
it is
shit for a
actually
long
used as an
time.
insult when people are
Yeah.
called cis.
well,
So, like, what I'm interested in is like guys like this. Oh, where is he? Come on. Like, to me, these people are unhelpful. I don't think this guy's very serious, personally. I think. Shit. You know what? We'll just keep going.
Right? When you get into the offence business,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
everyone is offended by all this terminology.
Like, this kind of thing is really pervasive, is the word, in trans circles, and you kind of have to agree with a lot of it, or you really don't have a place anywhere, and your experiences suddenly don't matter anymore. And like the trans woman on this panel is a lot more kind of moderate,
Right?
and I kind of agree with her.
Actually, I'm offended by you calling me a cis man.
And it is actually used as an insult when people are called cis.
well, I
As
was.
soon as you start
I'm being called a
boxing
sissy
people-
right now, and I don't like it, Benjamin.
As soon as you box people into identities, it splits people off from each other.
It kind of does a bit, yeah. Like, this obsession with like labels, we have so many now, and it just doesn't resonate for lots of people. But it's when you start forcing it onto everyone. Like, you call yourself whatever you want, that's fine. It's when they, you know, when this guy is going to try and get someone fired for making a stupid joke, you know, that's kind of forcing your ideology on someone.
Isn't it?
Why
You
is
give
this all
them
happening
100
now?
I think it gives people a sense of who they are, and I don't accept you can promote this. You know, I learned about World War II for several years at school, but I'm yet to think invading Poland is a good idea.
That's not a equivocation you can make. Like, I don't know where he's even going with that.
You can't convince someone.
Can I identify?
How does he know that? How does he know that? How does he know that kids can't get exposed to all this stuff and take some of it in? I think I've been, you know, taken in by all sorts of things when I was a kid that I thought, you know, maybe I'm like this, even if I'm not. I don't know. He doesn't have kids. He's not really. Fuck. I'll need to think more about this, but.
Identify. There's a penguin at the Sea Life Aquarium in London
here we go.
that is currently being reared gender neutral. Apparently has gay parents, right?
2 mums.
I
All
have
sounds-
nothing to say on this subject.
Well, hang on.
because
Let
it's
me just say this.
Can
Can I,
This is all yours.
under this new world of self-identification, can, as I did earlier, now identify as a two-spirit neutrois penguin?
Well,
Yeah.
you're not.
And then this guy's gonna come back. We already saw the bit where this is another debate where he comes back and like argues that he should be fired for making this joke. Like, come on, this guy's straight. He's not trans. He doesn't have a horse in this race. He doesn't have kids. Like, what's he fucking doing? It kind of feels like he's just pumping his ego up, you know? Like,
Not a penguin.
I don't want that kind of representation personally. I don't think he's helping trans people by doing this shit. He seems to be pretty proud of it still, from what I can tell on like Twitter. Like, he was sharing the other one being like, it's the most viewed thing and stuff like that, you know? I think he's making a fucking ass out of himself personally. And I think it's like an ego thing. I don't think it's got anything to do with like actually helping trans rights or whatever.
Because to use a bit of
Why?
common sense.
Why? Who says I'm not?
Well, I mean, that's not a thing that happens.
Why?
This is the distinction. People do identify
I'm
as
actually a
these different
two-spirit neutrois pangender penguin. And how
They
dare
don't-
you?
people don't
How
identify
dare
as
you tell me I
penguins.
can't identify as that? How dare you offend?
Yeah, more people need to denounce people like this. But I think a lot of trans people, maybe because a lot of life is very hostile to them, they kind of get taken in by these people. To me, it feels super manipulative. Like if you're just buttering up a particular side the whole time, even if you're not really giving any good arguments for it. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like manipulation. And as I said, he's got no horse in this race. Like, he isn't one of these people. When other trans people on these, like in the previous one as well, he'll talk over them and like ignore their experiences when we're always told like, oh, you have to listen to trans people's experiences. But these are the same people that won't if you disagree with them, it kind of seems like.
Well, you can maybe Piers the
You
penguin.
see how it works, Benjamin?
But
Look,
here's-
there I am. That's me as a
Can you
penguin.
see how it gets to
going
a
to
point
have
where
See, it's funny. Like, why are we getting him fucking fired for that? It's funny. It's funny. Anyone can say that they're anything. That's the whole point. I don't know how this kind of escalated somehow because fuck. Let's see if he saves it in the last 3 minutes. I'm looking for a reason to think maybe this guy is on our side. Maybe this guy isn't just a posh boy with a bit of an ego that wants someone to like back him up, you know?
people can make it ridiculous.
Well, only if they want to make it ridiculous. You know, common sense says that these are different
Common
genders.
sense, Benjamin.
Different genders that real people have identified as. They haven't identified as a penguin.
We've been male and
Well, if someone has, then doesn't that make it a gender? Like, if someone actually does, I mean, geez, I hate to think what, based on this logic, what is a gender now?
female for 200,000 years.
But we
I don't understand
haven't.
why all
That's
this
the
is.
point.
Well, we have,
Actually,
and we've
we have,
evolved at that.
Benjamin. We have.
What's
What
the
has
opposite of
risen in the
evolution?
I love it. She can never finish a sentence. This woman has not finished one sentence, and she's like talking the most sense. I don't think debate should ever be stopped. I think free speech is important, and arguing ideas is important. I think maybe one day, I'd have some work to do before then, but like, I'll talk to anyone. I mean, if some shitter on the internet wants to have an argument with me, then fucking great. But like, yeah, I mean, shit, if someone actually was stupid enough to want me on their panel, then yeah, I'd come in. They just might not like what I've got to say, you know?
In the last 2 or 3 decades, we've had a large number of people transgendering, quite rightly, as our wonderful guest has today, and they have my complete respect. What this does is actually makes, I think, people who have transgendered, it makes them figures of fun. It exposes them to needless mockery. It makes the whole thing look ridiculous.
Only if you mock
And
It does. Only,
actually, the real
Only if
victims
you
tend to
mock
be
them.
people who have mockery. It makes the whole thing look ridiculous.
so if he's driving more mockery, it's not his fault. It's the fault of the people mocking them. I don't know about that, man.
if you mock
And actually, the real victims tend to be people who have transgendered and have to put up with this nonsense.
No, I don't think that's a defence of being ignorant. The fact that people
The
might
only
mock
ignorant
them is
person's
the
here.
issue with
You
people
don't-
that
We're
mock.
You
all
came on to
ignorant
defend
because none of
100
us know
genders.
how
You
to
don't know what half of
define
them
any of them
are.
are.
When I went to school, my teachers couldn't believe there was more than one sexuality. They were incapable of dealing when I came out as gay.
When he went to school, he's younger than I am. I don't remember anything. Like, we didn't talk about like sexualities and stuff. This guy is like younger than I am, I'm sure. I can check actually. Benjamin Butterworth, 32. He's like a year younger than me. He's like the same, a little older than, yeah, okay. Fucking younger than me. I don't remember any of my fucking teachers being blown away by the idea that gay might exist. There were gay kids in my school.
As a teenager,
Right.
we've gone on a journey. We're making progress.
How many sexualities do you think there are?
Well, don't ask me to...
Well, have a stab.
Well, I'm gay. There's bisexual. There's pansexual. There's all sorts
How many
of
are there?
sexualities.
Gay and pan is basically the same thing. Come on.
Do you have an answer yourself?
No, tell me.
Well, no, because I'm not, you
Are
know...
there 100?
What's wrong with just say it's a fucking spectrum? Like, that's the most obvious. That can't be an argument that's only come in since fucking 2019. Like, surely, like, is this guy for real? I don't think he's for real. I think this is like,
I'm not going to...
I think this is like for his ego or some shit. Like, I'll keep watching, and I change my opinions over time if I get to know someone and understand what they're about. But so far, it's like, and these people don't understand what it looks like to not only other trans people have to sit next to them and listen to them, but like everyone watching. Like, there's no way that this guy thinks he did well, but he must seem to have, because he keeps coming back. Like, he came back again saying that he should be fired for that fucking penguin joke. So, like, how do you begin to like break through that, you know?
The
Can you be a
list of
neutrois,
sexuality that someone's
pangender,
identified
gender
as.
non-conforming?
It is a basic fact
bisexual?
of
I don't know.
Well, you either love your own sex.
Basic fact of respect. See, it's always about respect, but like, where does it actually come from? Like, it's like telling people it's a basic fact of respect to respect someone for being a Christian, which I personally do, but like, as an atheist, like, if he's an atheist, like, wouldn't he have a problem with that? Like, do I have to accept your beliefs all the time? Like, probably not, especially when it infringes on someone else's freedom.
Or you love the opposite sex, or you
like a bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Or you
really
could
nowhere
be
else to go, is
You
there?
could be attracted, you
That's
could be
all.
attracted to more than one gender. So
This
then it
takes
gets
us
different.
into the...
I hate him. Just say it's a fucking spectrum. It's the easiest argument in the fucking world.
Could be
of women
attracted to
that
the 100 genders,
have
is
sex
your
with
point.
both.
You probably won't be
So there's
attracted
probably
to all
100 different sexualities now.
Well,
But
then
if he's pan, then he would be attracted to all 100, surely. I'm fucking hell, man. I need to find out more about this individual for sure. This is nuts. Like, how do you defend this side that badly to the point where other trans people are sitting opposite you to be like, yeah, I don't know about that, bro.
Because if I'm like bizarrely attracted to neutrois people, right, which I didn't know I was, but maybe I am. Maybe if there were 100 neutrois people here now, I would suddenly feel sexually attracted to them.
Oh my goodness, it's all getting ridiculous.
But does that make me a cis male neutrois illity?
This is the problem. This kind of shit gets talked about constantly in these like smaller echo chambers, like mostly on the internet, like on Twitter and shit like that. So these people all accept the same stuff. But when you bring it to like a normal person like Piers, I'm not the biggest fan of his approach. I think sometimes he gives this guy a lot of like ammo. Jackie Moon's phrase. I don't know that. What's the phrase? Everybody love everybody. I mean, yeah, that's fine. It's when it gets to the point of like telling other people that they should be fired for making a joke, for example, which this person will do with Piers Morgan. But like, when you bring these like ideas out of the echo chamber to normal people, and like Piers Morgan is quite a good like filter for this, you gotta accept how it sounds, you know?
Or something. What is
I
it?
have no idea what
And
you
it falls apart when he actually tries to explain it because it sounds insane. Like, you have to find a way of not making it sound insane, surely, but no one has.
just said.
It won't make you pansexual because that's when you're attracted to someone regardless of
Which
how they
is
necessarily
fine,
identify.
but we don't all have to adapt to that. We just let people get on with their business.
Okay.
Let's just let people get
Yeah,
on.
that's kind of the point. Like, making everybody adapt to, like, how much of the population identifies as one of these like other genders. It's bizarre. Like, trans people are what, like less than 1%.
With their business.
Yeah.
The BBC took
Yeah, that's fair enough. For me, it comes down to like, you know, the way we're represented by people like this. The kind of stuff that is like taking over trans communities and making it difficult for half the people that should be in those communities, you know? And like the hypocrisy of some of it as well. Like, there's a lot of things that concern me because I think our rights are going backwards like exponentially. And I don't think people like this are helping. I think they're part of the problem. But trying to convince anyone that there's more to it than just, oh, the fascist government, like, it's almost impossible.
this is an informed
And the way this guy is smirking, I'm sorry, there's got to be some kind of ego thing going on here. I find it hard to accept that this guy is particularly sincere. I think he's some posh boy who found a thing that he can get community from and he can get, you know, support from, and he's just gonna, you know, fuck. I need to keep watching because I need to stop shitting on him so much because I don't know the guy ultimately, but that's just the impression he's given me more than anything.
professional view from a qualified teacher who is a personal, social, health and economic education specialist. Her opinion is based on her own extensive research. And many conversations...
See, other people fuck up the English language too, despite it being their first language. I feel comforted.
with young LGBTQ people. She is not saying these are medical definitions of gender, but is talking about how people identify.
Or to put it another way, she's talking complete cobblers. OK, thank you both very much indeed.
I think
and
we're
apologies
all
to anybody who doesn't
confused.
identify with having cobblers. Or if you're a cobbler.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And just don't expect other people to automatically accept the same beliefs that you do. Like, if someone believes in God, then great. Like, I don't believe in God personally, but I don't care who does. If people are trying to make me believe in God, that's when there starts to be an issue. And like I said, if you're gonna say that this guy needs to be fired for saying that I'm a two-spirit penguin, you know, like where are we at? Like you can't make fun of this, but you'll make fun of everything else. Like I don't know.
Cobbler and you make shoes. I meant shoemakers. If you have a problem with shoemakers, maybe you're a neutrois cobbler and you feel yourself strange.
Yeah. And I don't think someone like this guy that's arguing here, I don't think that he is a good person. I think that he's pushing kind of bunk, probably to get like support, to get some kind of community. I don't really know. I need to watch more. I've got other people I need to look at because I've kind of queued some shit up. But yeah, that's the impression I'm getting. Like we're being told how to be a good person by, you know, accepting everything everyone tells us. But then I don't think these people are good people. I don't think they live by their principles, like at all. Some of them.